Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha, and I'm a member of the Insight team. How useful this data can be. We'll preview some of the upcoming release information that's coming in May. We are constantly working on this application, iterating to make sure that it is the most useful to you and your teams as it can possibly be. And so we'll preview some of that information. And then we'll have time for an office hour. So essentially, the structure of today is that we'll give you a preview of the information where you can find on your end attendance information. I'm going to give you some time to move around on your own within the application, look at the data, and then we'll have ample time for questions and for me to demo anything that you would like to see. And then at the end, I will share with you resources and information about how to get answers to questions on your own time after this session. I will note that we do have another session on different information on Insight coming up right after this at 11:20. So if you're joining us for that one, we will be covering different information. Before we begin, we just put in the chat the sign-in link. So if you wouldn't mind signing into this session, this is session number 9. Elena just put that in the chat so you can find that link to sign in. So please just do that for make sure everybody's accounted for. All righty. So in general, housekeeping rules, etc. Please do not record this session. I will be in the live application at some point, and while we are doing our best to minimize any confidential student information appearing on the screen, we just want to be sure that we are able to blur that out after this session before we share the recording and deck with you all. So we will take care of ensuring that you have all of this information after the session, so no need to record anything on your end. I think you all know that you can ask questions within the Q&A box. We will be responding there. But you can also raise your hand during the office hour portion, and we'll be happy to take you off mute so that you can jump in verbally. Alrighty, so Insight, as I've already mentioned, is a DOE web-based tool that's built in-house by members of the Office of Policy and Evaluation in collaboration with many offices in the DOE. And it allows users from the BCO level and school level to access timely and actionable data in order to help you all better understand your practices and students and empower you to easily recognize trends and investigate issues to create conditions that raise achievement for every student while addressing disproportionalities. We display information across various DOE systems. So this involves attendance data, suspension data, progress to graduation, some assessment data, some guardian contact information, so that everything is sort of in one place to allow you to best understand students from a more holistic standpoint, really digging into all of the different aspects that might impact their achievement and their learning. Within all of the aspects of the application, we allow you to do subgroups of that data so that you can really understand, back to that disproportionality piece, are there groups of students that we can look at to see, are they, how is their attendance faring? Are we programming students within one subgroup at the same proportionality as students in a different subgroup? So we'll talk about a little bit about some of that today. Our second session will cover a bit more of that disproportionality piece, just to give you a little tease there. So I mentioned that Insight pulls from multiple source systems. Those include systems like STARS and ATS, and we are pulling that information on a daily basis. So information in Insight is very much updated to make it the most actionable it can be for all of you. And within your schools, the staff that can access this tool currently include principals like all of you, our APs, guidance counselors, data specialists, parent coordinators, and principal secretaries. Teachers do not currently have access to the Insight tool unless they hold one of those roles that I just mentioned. And then in addition, we have field staff, as I mentioned, also have access to this tool, and that includes borough and citywide office support staff, as well as superintendent staff. So in terms of the attendance upload, since that's what we're going to focus on today, we want to be really clear with you all about how this data is feeding into Insight. So as I'm sure you're all very, very familiar, you all are uploading your attendance data via the attendance tracker in STARS, and then that information moves into ATS overnight. And any corrections that you're making to your attendance data are being made in ATS. We are pulling information into Insight from both sources. So all of our attendance data, as I mentioned, is updated on a daily basis, but it's a daily feed from both STARS and ATS. So we're receiving both the current feed of your attendance as well as those corrections that you might be making. So it should be very, very accurate according to what you all are uploading. So before I move into the actual application, I want to talk about the preview for this release that's coming in May, as there are a number of enhancements that we're making to the attendance and chronic absenteeism page that I'll be showing you today. And I think it will answer perhaps some of the questions or needs that might come up during this session that you have. So we will be adding in historical attendance data into the application so that you're able to see not just how students are doing in terms of their attendance for this year, but also in terms of the years prior. So that data is not currently in the application, but again, will be available in May. We're also distinguishing between students who are already considered chronically absent and those who are at risk of being chronically absent. So for us, those rules obviously differ depending on if a student has already missed 18 days of the school year, or if they are on trend to miss 18 days or 10%. And so that we will be making that distinction in the application in May. We're also going to be flagging consecutive days of absence. So to be able to note to you all when we're seeing that a student is absent more than 2 days in a row, so that you all can, perhaps make an action plan to support that student. And then lastly, within our downloader feature, and again, I will talk through these features in the application, we're adding in guardian contact information to make it the most actionable for you all as we can. So with that, I am going to move us into the Insight application. My colleagues are going to put the link to Insight in the chat so that you all can log in on your own end. I'll pause here for a moment to get you all into the application, and I am going to navigate over there myself so that I can walk you through those features that are most helpful for our session today. So that link is in the chat right now to log in. You can just enter your DOE credentials as you do for any DOE application. I'm going to switch my screen share, so just bear with me for a moment. Alrighty. Now, for today's purposes of focusing on the attendance and chronic absenteeism data for your school, I'm going to show you two different features that are particularly helpful for diving into this data, both on a school level and a student level. So the first feature, which hopefully you all had a chance to see the tips document that we shared in the iLearn platform. All of what I'm sharing with you now is mirrored in that document, and we'll make sure that's a part of the turnkey to you after today's session. But if you had a chance to look through it, you'll see a lot of what I'm walking you through now is mirrored. So the first feature is the attendance and chronic absenteeism feature. And you can find that with, this is the main login screen. And there's 3 different ways that we can get to that particular feature. So on the homepage, we have all of these cards that get you to the different features within the application. Here is that chronic attendance and chronic absenteeism feature. We can also get there by clicking on the reflect menu item. And then there's the third option, which is most accessible within the mobile version of this app, is clicking on what's called a hamburger menu up here on the right-hand side. And then we can just go down to reflect attendance and chronic absenteeism. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this feature. Oh, and of course, I didn't re-log in. Sorry about that. Okay. So here is our first feature. I'm going to do a very brief walkthrough for you all on this data. I'm showing you again live information on the screen from one school in particular. So please follow along to look at your school's information as I'm walking you through. So as you see at the very top, we have the school attendance and chronic absenteeism for the year to date. So you're able to see that information and rates. This is where we will also be distinguishing between chronic absenteeism rates and the risk and students at risk of that within our May release. And then as we go further down, we have sort of the bulk of this feature, which is being able to look at your school's attendance information, where you can filter by grade. So on your screen, looking at your data, you should be able to see all of the grades that your school serves, and you are able to uncheck and recheck any of the boxes to look at all of the grades or just a few or just one. And what we've done is cut this attendance data into 4 different tiers. So we have the 0 to 49% attendance rate, 50 to 79, 80 to 89, and 90 to 100%. And so the colored bars that you're seeing are your school's all students within the selected group. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm looking at all students at the school. And those are all represented in these color bars. And then beneath that is a solid gray bar. And this is providing for you a comparison group. Now, by default, that comparison group is the city, but we also have other options for you to look at. I'm going to click on this choose comparison dropdown. You're not going to see those options on your end, but I'll read them for you now aloud. And so those other comparison options are city, borough, district, and superintendency. So you're able to look at these attendance rates for schools that serve the same population of students. So we're not comparing apples to oranges here of grades K to 5 to grades K to 12 across the city. We're actually looking at schools that are serving the same population in these gray bars below. Now, on your end, I encourage all of you to click on any of these colored bars so that you can see a student list on the right-hand side. I'm mousing over it right now. I'm not going to click on these colored bars on my end because I will then be showing the student names associated with them, with these bars. So we are trying to minimize how much student data we're showing on the live screen. But on your end, if you click on any of these bars, and you can click on multiple, you can click on one or more, you will see a list of the students whose attendance rate falls within the band that you've clicked on, as well as their personal attendance rate. And you can sort that information low to high and high to low. Now, I will note here that for the purposes of looking at students who are either at risk or already chronically absent, you can go ahead and click on the first 3 bars here so that you're looking at all students who have an attendance rate of 0 to 89%. And then you're able to have that full list appear here on the right-hand side. And beneath that is the ability to add subgroups. Now, here's where we have the ability to look at that disproportionality that we might see within your school. And this is a subgroup box that you're going to see across a lot of different features. You're able to make this comparison of all students versus a particular subgroup or one subgroup compared to another. And we have in here learning preference, student race, student gender, MLL, ELL status, students with disabilities, and students in temporary housing. And so if I click on any of these subgroups, I'm able to see then a comparison of the students within all students in my school, which is remaining within that solid colored bar, and then the students in my subgroup that I've added, which is the hashed bar. Again, just like before, if I click on any of the bars, including now the hashed bar for my student subgroup, I will see that list appear in the right-hand side, reflecting the students within that subgroup and in that attendance band. Now, before I give you a couple of minutes to look around on your own, I want to share with you one other feature that is particularly useful when looking at attendance and chronic absenteeism data at your schools, and that can be found in the plan menu item, and that is the school climate report. Now, this particular feature is all student level, so I'm not going to click on one of the students on my end, but I am going to navigate very quickly over to our webinar, which is a resource that I will share with you at the end. And so hopefully you can see, I know it's not that large, but here is the attendance section of this particular page, which you all should be able to see on your end by clicking on a student. And essentially what we're providing is a day-by-day breakdown of the students' attendance, and we're providing information as to whether or not they were present or absent for in-person or remote learning. And this data, as I've noted, is updated on a daily basis. So you should be seeing that information reflected there. Here is also where we're going to note whether or not a student is chronically absent or at risk of being chronically absent. So I'm going to navigate back to the school dashboard, or I'm sorry, the main page. And again, those two features that will give you about 3 to 5 minutes to now navigate on your own are the attendance and chronic absenteeism page and the school climate report. Those two cards are right next to each other on the home page.
I see one raised hand. I've unmuted you, so feel free to just ask the question out loud.
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to interrupt. Hi, David Marlin, the principal of Francis Lewis High School. First of all, I want to commend you. I think the tool looks very well done. I too have two quick questions so far that are kind of urgent. One would be that as a large high school with 4,500 kids and 14 counselors, it seems like this is a great tool. Obviously, I want my counselors to be able to use. So is there a way within the system right now that I can create groupings so the counselors can have access just to their caseloads and not have to navigate kid by kid to find them? So can we create custom groupings for the counselors?
I can take that. That's a great question. Yes. So we have received this request, and we are actually working on this this ability for users to create custom groups, which will come out in September. So you will be able to create groups, and you can do that by however so you can group students, you can group it by guidance counselor. So yes, so that is something we are working on and will be out at the end of this school year. Sorry, at the beginning of the next school year.
Okay, so yeah, because it has somewhat different value in the large full school setting, without that groupings. So anyway, I'm glad that it's coming, but I just wanted to reiterate how valuable and important that's going to be to the implementation. The second question is, I can see that right now, of course, we're in this mixed remote setting with the attendance being done the way it is. Is there already a plan in place that if and when we go back to doing, ATS scanned attendance eventually, that the same thing will apply, that it'll go straight through, whether it's the bubble sheets or some other way, that the attendance will flow that way?
So that is actually currently there are discussions around that. So I can't answer that question specifically because there isn't a decision made. But yes, I think it would be one of those two things. We would either have to go back to ATS or continue stars, but at this time, we don't have a specific answer for that.
All right, and then I'm sorry, I have one last question. The attendance you're looking at here is daily attendance, not for a high school. This doesn't include any period by period attendance. So my question is there any thoughts going forward about incorporating period by period attendance for high schools?
When you say period by period, do you mean like in a day, like within a day for each period?
Like, in other words,
classrooms?
there's in a high school setting, there are two attendances. There's the daily attendance, which says whether the kid was present or absent in school. And then we separately take period by period for all 10 periods of the day so that we have an idea of which classes the kid's actually going to. So my question is, since we're capturing that data in ATS, is there plans to incorporate period attendance into the system, not just daily? Because a kid can come to school and be marked present and also miss 7 classes and still show up as present. So my question is there thoughts of building in period by period attendance?
Yeah, so we've actually talked about peer attendance before, and as of now, at least this year, there isn't a plan to add peer attendance into Insight. I think predominantly the reason is because different schools input peer attendance differently. So we don't have like a complete set of data. So that is something we would have to think about and maybe do a little bit of analysis to see what the data looks like. I think some schools, and it sounds like your school is putting in attendance for every period, but I don't think that is something every school is doing. So that's why it might be incomplete information on our end to be able to include that. But I will definitely make a note of this for us to think about for the next development cycle.
Okay, just because from the high school perspective, remember a kid can show up as present, but actually not go to almost any of his classes.
Yeah, we totally hear you. And we've heard this use case. I think we would love to include that. It's just like thinking through, what is the integrity of the data that we're collecting.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure if this is a problem on the school end or not. But I see that I have kids who come to school every day, but yet looking at their daily attendance, it's saying present remote, but they're not remote. So is that a problem with my attendance teacher putting it in wrong?
It could be. So the thing is that there are specific codes when you are inputting the attendance in the STARS Excel sheet, right?
No,
So
exactly.
right. So the default for all students is actually present remote. So if the attendance teacher isn't replacing that with a present in person code, it is possible that it is being counted as remote. So I would look at which code is being inputted and then accordingly. So I think in order to so in person present is code P. So just to like make sure that is the code that is being used to identify all students who are in person and present. So you would use P for that.
Okay, so that's, yeah, because some of the kids are correctly coded and some I'm noticing are not.
I just pulled up on the screen the downloader feature, which is not something that we covered earlier. However, Elena just answered a question in the chat about downloading attendance information. So I've just navigated to that feature on the screen now. And where she's saying to select the attendance data is just this checkbox right here. And then you're able to download that information as a CSV with student level data on days absent for this school year. And I navigated to this feature. It's this purple card here on the left-hand side. It's also under the plan menu item.
Samantha, there's also a request to show us students' individual attendance. So if you just want to quickly show people that too.
Yeah. We would be able to find that information on the school climate report, which I showed earlier. I will click on a student and quickly we will go past their information. And here is that daily attendance view. So you should be able to navigate here by the school climate report, then choosing a student from the left-hand side should list all students available who are enrolled at your school. You can also filter that list using the filters that are showing above. So grade, gender, race, MLL status, ELL status, 504 plan, etc. And then we have that day-by-day attendance view with the legend showing here.
I can answer a couple of questions out loud that I see in the Q&A. So Joshua, you've asked, will students and families see their own data, attendance for the whole year by day, progress, graduation through My Students NYC account? So, so unfortunately, Insight currently is not something that students and families can access. This is an application predominantly for school leaders as well as school staff and field and central staff. So students and families cannot see their own data, but we do have functionality of bulk printing. So if you do want to like print out a student's like either their graduation progress information or their school climate report and give it to a parent, we do have that ability, but this will not be available through the myschools.nyc account for now.
I can take a couple of questions that we've gotten about chronic absenteeism and differences perhaps with New Visions. So Insight is aligned to New York City's rules on attendance and chronic absenteeism. And we actually indicate if a student is at risk of becoming chronically absent or if they are at this point considered chronically absent for the entire school year. So a student is at risk of being chronically absent if they have missed 10% of the school year, but not yet the 10% of the entire school year. And they are considered chronically absent if they have already missed 10% of the entire school year, meaning that their attendance rate is 90% or less. I also included a link in the chat to our wiki, which includes more information about this if you need to double check.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Diana Ansugum, principal of the Heritage School. I was just navigating around the graduation tracker, and I was just curious about, so I see that I'm just trying to sort through whether students are on track for graduation, and it kind of sorts it by regions completion and college readiness scores, but it's not there. I don't see an actual tab for whether the students are on track for graduation or not. Is there, do you know offhand where I can find that?
Yeah, so we actually have a whole session dedicated to this from 11:20 onwards, but yeah, it's fine, but just we can give you like a quick answer. So almost in every feature that we have, there are filters that are available where you can sort students by their graduation status. So Samantha, if you can quickly just go into, I guess, maybe graduation progress, just to sort of have that visible. And so if you see on the right, there's a graduation status filter. And if you expand on that, it'll give you all the different types of statuses. So if you want to see your students who are off track or almost on track, you can just click on that and that would give you all your students who are specifically in that track. Does that answer your question? And that should be available on all features. So even if you go into if you go into other, like graduation status definitely has that. School climate report has that. Downloader has that. So we have the same filters on all of our student level app features. within Insight. But if you would like more information, and like, because we're going to specifically walk through this, please attend our next session, which is specifically around graduation and features that are towards the 6th to 12th grade.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to go ahead and share with everybody the the resources that we talked about a little bit earlier, so that you have more information to explore through as you're looking into your data and Insight. Can everyone see my PowerPoint again? Just to check.
You can see it.
Great, thank you. Alrighty, so as I sort of previewed before, we have built out a number of resources to help facilitate your use of Insight, as well as any turnkeying that you need to do to your team with your school team. So we have a wiki page, which Elena linked to in the chat earlier. This is where you'll find all of our business rules as far as the data that we receive, where we're receiving it from, how often we receive it, how we're calculating things like chronic absenteeism. We have links to all of these resources within that wiki page. And we also provide information about access to this application, who has automatic access to it, how to get access if you don't have automatic access, etc. So the wiki is really your one-stop shop of getting to all of the resources that you need to support learning Insight. Our user guide has been built to help you walk through the application feature by feature. But we've also worked with a number of offices who are expert on how to support students in things like chronic absenteeism or repeat suspensions, to help you have some guiding questions about looking at the data that we have here. Obviously, as we know, this data is not the full story of a student. So how can we use this data to probe further questioning about how to create an action plan to best support them? Then we've created 4 different tip guides with specific staff members in mind. So for our school leaders, like all of you, we have a guide that sort of outlines each of the features in Insight. So not just focusing on attendance here, we're bringing in all of the different features to help you to best understand how this application can be useful. We have a tips guide for guidance counselors, one for middle and high school staff involved in student programming, and one for supporting students in earlier cohorts to graduate. Now, we will be talking about the latter of supporting students in earlier cohorts, as well as looking at advanced courses by race and identifying students who received a grade of NX in our session at 11:20. So if those are of interest to you, please feel free to join us for session 2. And then the last resource that we've built out here, which is probably one of our favorites, is our webinars. So I showed you just a preview of that before. I'm going to go ahead and click back to those webinars to show you. So essentially, we have a webinar for every single feature on Insight. They're usually no more than 7 minutes long. Most are less than 5. Hopefully you all, nope, you can't see my, let me see. Sorry. There we go. Can you all see my webinar screen? So here is this is the webinar for attendance, for example. It's a very brief walkthrough, but it should very much give you an idea of how to use this particular feature. And as I mentioned, we have one for every single feature. Now within the deck, which will be turnkeying to you, as well as within the wiki, you'll find a link to our full stream channel where you can access all of those webinar links. However, if you're just within the application itself and you're stuck and don't know how to navigate further to get the information that you need, we have linked those webinars at the top of every single page. So it's very accessible to you as you're navigating through the application on your own. And then the other resource that is linked directly within Insight is understanding the charts. And so here again, if you are not a visual learner, you're somebody who learns by reading through, you can click on the understanding your charts link, and we do provide a written walkthrough of all of these charts that you're seeing on your page. So these are really great tools as you're going back to your school community today or tomorrow, and want to, build capacity among your team for how best to use this application. These webinars are, again, super easy and accessible, and very much mirror all of the training that we provide every new release. And then if you still have questions after going through all of this, all of those resources, the APAs and PALs at the BCO level are our liaison staff members who we provide training to. So they are accessible to you to ask questions, and they are more than equipped to assist in answering as you navigate around. The last thing I want to highlight here, and Danisha sort of mentioned this before, is that we receive feedback from the field all the time, and we take that feedback and we implement it in our future releases. So what we are implementing in our May release, as well as our release coming out in the beginning of next school year in September, is very much from all of you who have participated in our user interviews in the past. And we are very serious about, intentionally embedding into Insight the information that you need. So if you're ever interested in being a member of that team of users who we interview for any of those enhancements, you're more than welcome to sign up to be one of our user testers. And we will be putting the link to that in the chat so that you can go ahead and sign up if that interests you. We, of course, appreciate and value your time and won't abuse it, but I think it's obviously, as you heard some of the questions coming in earlier, the things that you're expressing in need of, we've heard before and are implementing into the application. So we do very much appreciate hearing from all of you on that. We still have about 10 minutes left in this session, so we will certainly be sticking around. If you want to continue to put your questions in the chat or raise your hand, you're more than welcome to do so. I hope that this was a useful demo of the application for you all. And if you are joining us for session 2, we are very thankful for you to be joining us again, and we'll see you in about 10 minutes. All right, thank you everyone so much again for your time today. We are going to navigate over to our second session and give you all a few minutes to get over to your second session as well. But again, we'll be turnkeying this information to everyone. So thank you so much for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.